Our top stories this week. In South Carolina, a state senator puts forth a bill that would scrap the child protective industry and completely start over. In Florida, the legislature approves a sweeping reform bill in light of recent failures in news reports, including an institute to guide state leaders by evaluating the successes of their policies. And in Michigan, the state wants to get out of federal court-ordered oversight, which was filed under a class action lawsuit in 2006 on behalf of kids who are lingering in the state's foster care system. In Pennsylvania, the Crawford County Court-appointed special advocates have to cut back on their program now that the county government has stopped providing funding for them. In Texas, nobody can see the exit interviews from CPS agents who quit their jobs because lawmakers made them confidential, although the information may hold some key into the industry's high turnover rates. In Washington, a judge says that the child protective industry's efforts to reform their child welfare system isn't good enough when they're only reaching part of the expected goals. And in Vermont, a report into the deaths of 2 toddlers confirms that the state's child protective industry fails children. In China, the government implements new foster care rules that are supposed to protect children, but they can't even figure out how to enforce the old rules. In Alberta, Canada, a high-profile pediatrician and child abuse expert has resigned from a government council after efforts to improve the province's child protective industry were rejected by ministry officials, while the chief medical examiner's contract won't be renewed after she complained about regular political and bureaucratic interference in all aspects of the death investigation system. In England, foster parents are feeling pressured into quitting their jobs so that they can take care of kids all the time. And in Maryland, disabled foster kids who were removed from a group home last summer were placed in facilities where the nurses lacked training for the kids' special medical needs. In Georgia, a woman was arrested for abusing her adopted son. In Florida, a real mother is speaking out after not seeing her daughter for a year but finding out that the kid had been beaten with a belt by her foster mother. In New Jersey, the CPS agent who got stabbed a couple weeks back gets out of the hospital while her buddies threaten a walkout over the ordeal. And in Newfoundland, Canada, a social worker gets punched in the face at an airport. In England, a mother killed a new baby and herself because she was afraid that social workers were going to come take the baby away. In New York, a mother is suing the child protective industry for $25 million after her 3-year-old son was beaten to death by a grandmother who ACS placed him with. In Connecticut, a judge rescinds his order against a newspaper from publishing a story about a child custody case. And a new study shows that former foster kids face a higher risk of future health problems than do their peers. In Utah, a social worker who went missing back in September was found dead and floating in a river. In California, a CPS agent pleads not guilty to having sex with 2 teenage girls. In Saskatchewan, Canada, a hockey coach and former foster parent kills himself after being charged with 9 sexual offenses, including 2 in the 1980s and 90s. In Minnesota, the child protective industry failed to investigate 203 reports of suspected sexual abuse last year. And finally, tonight in Australia, child protection campaigners are calling for a ban from the practice of little kids sitting on Santa Claus's lap. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.